Captain Park Ji-ho walked slowly across the metal floor of his ship, the New Seoul. The bright lights above him made soft humming sounds as he moved toward the big window that showed the stars outside. His crew had been traveling through space for 3 months now, looking for new worlds to explore, but what they found today was something nobody expected. The planet below them looked sick and dying. The blue and green colors that should cover a healthy world were fading to gray and brown. Lieutenant Kim Mi-rae stood next to a computer screen showing numbers that made her feel worried. She had been studying space for 10 years but never saw readings like these. Captain, this planet is sending out distress signals, Kim Mi-rae said while pointing at the screen. The signals are very old. Some of them have been going out for 50 years or more. She touched the screen and more information appeared. The signals are asking for help from anyone who can hear them. Park Ji-ho moved closer to look at the screen himself. The numbers showed a world that was slowly losing all its energy. Like a battery that was running down. The people living there were getting weaker every day, and soon they would all be gone. He felt a heavy feeling in his chest when he thought about an entire world of people dying alone who lives on this planet. He asked the computer, says they call themselves the Valari. Kim Mi-rae answered, they look like humans but have blue skin and bigger eyes. The population used to be 5 million people, but now only 10,000 are left alive. The energy that keeps them healthy is being drained away by something they cannot stop. Park Ji-ho stared at the dying planet below them. He thought about his own family back on Earth and how he would feel if they were sick and no one came to help. Have any other ships answered their calls for help? He asked him. Mi-rae looked sad as she shook her head. No, Captain. The records show that 12 different alien civilizations received these distress signals. The Zentari Empire got the first call 20 years ago. The Ethereal Collective heard them asking for help 15 years ago. Even the powerful Kronos Federation knows about this planet, but nobody came to help. Why not? Park Ji-ho asked, feeling angry. The other aliens think the Valari are too primitive to be worth saving, Kim Mi-rae explained. Some say they are too far away from important trade routes. Others claim that helping dying civilizations is a waste of time and resources. The Galactic Council has a rule that says civilizations must be advanced enough to be valuable trading partners before anyone will help them. Park Ji-ho felt his hands make fists. He had seen this kind of thinking before during his time in the Earth. Space Force strong groups only helped other strong groups while weak people were left to die alone. This was not the human way of thinking, and it made him feel sick. Inside, prepare a landing team, he ordered. We are going down to meet these Valari people. But Captain, Kim Mi-rae said, looking worried. The regulations say we should contact the Galactic Council first. Any contact with new civilizations is supposed to be approved by. Park Ji-ho turned to look at her with serious eyes. These people have been waiting 50 years for someone to answer their calls. Kim Mi-rae, 50 years of watching their children get sick and their cities fall apart while the galaxy ignores them. I will not make them wait one more day for bureaucrats to decide if their lives are worth saving. The landing shuttle flew down through the planet's thin atmosphere toward the largest city on the surface. Engineer Ko Daejin piloted the small ship, while Park Ji-ho and Kim Mi-rae watched the world grow bigger below them. The cities they could see looked old and broken, with many empty buildings and dark streets. This place used to be beautiful, Ko Daejin said sadly as he guided the shuttle toward a landing area. You can see where there used to be parks and gardens, but now everything looks gray and empty. They landed near what looked like the center of the city, where a few Valari people waited for them. The aliens were tall and thin, with smooth blue skin that seemed to glow softly in the dim light. Their eyes were larger than human eyes and colored deep purple. Their faces showed exhaustion and sadness, but also hope when they saw the human shuttle in. Elderly Valari female walked forward to meet them. She wore simple white robes and moved slowly like someone who was very tired. Her purple eyes were bright with unshed tears as she looked at the humans who had finally come to answer her people's call for help. The universal translator device on Park Ji-ho's belt made soft beeping sounds as it learned the Valari language. Then the old female spoke, and her words came through the translator in clear human speech. I am Lisa, leader of what remains of the Valari people, she said with a voice full of emotion. For 50 of your years we have sent messages across the stars begging for anyone to hear our cries for help. We watched our children grow weak and our cities empty while we waited for an answer that never came. Park Jiho stepped forward and removed his helmet so Lisa could see his face clearly. We heard your call, he said simply. We came as soon as we could. Lisa stared at him in amazement. You came, she whispered, but the other star civilizations said we were not worth saving. They told us our technology was too simple, our resources too few, our location too far from important space routes. Why would you travel so far for people you have never met? Because that is what humans do, Park Jiho answered. We help people who need help. It does not matter if you have advanced technology or valuable resources. It does not matter if you live far away from trade routes. Every life has value, and every call for help deserves an answer. Tears began flowing down Lisa's blue cheeks as she heard these words. She had given up hope that anyone in the galaxy cared about her dying people, but here were strangers from a distant world who had crossed half the galaxy just because they heard someone asking for help. Please, she said, falling to her knees. Come and see what is happening to us. Come and see why we are dying. Maybe your people can do what ours cannot. Maybe you can save us when our own science has failed. Park Jiho reached down and gently helped Lisa stand up. We will do everything we can, he promised. We did not come this far just to watch and leave. We came to help, and we will not give up until we find a way to save your people. As they walked toward the Valari city together, Park Jiho thought about the other alien civilizations who had ignored these desperate calls for help. He wondered how they could be so advanced in technology but so backward in compassion. How could being smart enough to travel between stars be too stupid to understand that helping others was the right thing to do? Behind them, the new soul waited in orbit, ready to begin the most important mission Captain Park Jiho had ever attempted. The mission to prove that in a galaxy full of powerful civilizations who only cared about themselves, there was still one species that believed every life was worth fighting for. Admiral Park Jiho stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, watching the last energy storms fade from the atmosphere of Kepler-7. The 17th star system, infected by the ancient plague, was now completely free of the deadly weapon that had threatened to consume the galaxy. 6 months had passed since the first human ship answered the Valari distress call, and everything had changed. The Valari population had not only recovered, but grown stronger than ever before. Their unique immunity to the plague made them invaluable partners in medical research and galactic peacekeeping. Young Kale now served as the official Valari ambassador to the Galactic Council, representing his species with wisdom that impressed even the oldest civilizations. Dr. Lee Soman had been promoted to director of the new Galactic Medical Institute, a joint facility staffed by humans, Valari, and reformed members of other species. Her neural purging techniques were now taught to medical students from dozens of worlds, creating a new generation of healers who understood that every life was worth saving. The ceremony celebrating the final defeat of the energy plague took place in the restored capital city of Valara. Prime representatives from 43 civilizations gathered in the crystal amphitheater that had once echoed with desperate calls for help. Now it rang with speeches of gratitude and promises of cooperation. Valari leader Lisa stepped forward to address the assembled delegates. Her blue skin glowed with health, and her purple eyes sparkled with tears of joy as she looked out at the crowd of beings from across the galaxy. 6 months ago, my people were dying alone and forgotten, she said through the universal translators. Today we stand as partners and friends with civilizations we once only dreamed of meeting. Ambassador Nexus of the Zentari Empire rose from his seat to respond. His silver skin seemed softer somehow, and his cold eyes showed warmth that had never been there before. The Zentari Empire formally apologizes for our failure to answer your original distress calls, he announced. We were blinded by arrogance and forgot that true strength comes from helping others, not abandoning the ethereal collective. Representative glowed brighter as she spoke. We have learned much from observing human and Valari cooperation, she said in harmonious tones. Your species have taught us that wisdom means nothing without compassion, and that evolution includes the growth of moral understanding. Even High Admiral Krex of the Kronos Federation stood to deliver a grudging acknowledgement. The military values strength above all else, he rumbled, but you have shown us that protecting the weak requires greater courage than conquering them. We will Remember this lesson. Captain Kim My-rae, now promoted to Admiral, presented the final statistics of the plague response mission. 17 star systems saved, she announced. 230 million lives preserved through joint human-Valari medical teams. The galaxy is now completely free of the ancient energy weapon, but the greatest victory was not just the defeat of the plague. Admiral Park Ji-ho realized as he listened to the speeches, the real triumph was the transformation of galactic society itself. The crisis had forced proud civilizations to work together and learn from species they had previously dismissed as inferior. The Galactic Council established the Humanitarian Response Corps with joint human and Valari leadership. The new organization's mission was simple: no distress call would ever go unanswered again, regardless of the species sending it or their perceived value to galactic civilization. Engineer Ko Daejin and Valari technician Shan were awarded the Order of Galactic Merit for their development of portable neural purging equipment. Their joint research facility on Valara Prime became a symbol of what could be accomplished when different species shared knowledge. Instead of hoarding it, pilot Han Min-soo established the Emergency Rescue Service, training pilots from multiple species to fly aid missions through dangerous conditions. His academy graduated its first class of mixed-species pilots who took an oath to help anyone in need, regardless of politics or territorial boundaries. The transformation extended beyond government policies to change how individuals thought about their place in the galaxy. Young beings from many species volunteered to serve in the Humanitarian Response Corps, inspired by stories of humans who risked everything for strangers and Valari who refused to let others suffer alone. Lieutenant Commander Choi Yun-ha opened the first interspecies medical academy on Valara Prime, where students from dozens of worlds learned not just technical skills but also the principles that had saved the galaxy, that every life had value, that cooperation worked better than competition, and that compassion was the highest form of intelligence. The academy graduation ceremony became an annual celebration attended by representatives from across the galactic community. Admiral Park Ji-ho delivered the keynote address to the first graduating class, wearing the crystal pendant that Valari leader Lisa had given him, containing the neural patterns of every life saved by human intervention. We gather today not to celebrate human achievement, he told the mixed-species audience of new doctors and medical technicians. We celebrate what happens when beings choose to help instead of abandon, when they choose to heal instead of ignore, when they choose to answer when someone calls for help. The graduates took an oath that would echo through galactic history, promising to serve all species equally and to remember that medical knowledge was meaningless without the wisdom to use it compassionately. The ceremony ended with the lighting of the memorial flame, honoring all those who had died waiting for help that never came. As the celebration continued into the night, Admiral Park Ji-ho walked through the first medical camp on Nova Prima was established in the shadow of a massive Zentari crystal spire that had once been a symbol of the Empire's power. Now the beautiful structure was dark and cracked as the energy plague drained power from everything around it. Dr. Lee So-min and her Valari partner Thera worked together to treat a group of young Zentari children whose silver skin had faded to gray. The portable neural purging equipment hummed softly as Dr. Lee connected her mind to the first patient, a Zentari girl named Zara, whose parents watched with desperate hope in their crystalline eyes. The plague had been eating away at Zara's consciousness for 3 days, and she could barely speak or recognize her own family inside the neural connection. Dr. Lee found Thera waiting for her. The Valari woman's consciousness glowed with healthy energy as she guided the human doctor through the infected areas of Zara's mind. Together they began the delicate work of untangling the plague's dark tendrils from the young girl's memories and thoughts. The plague fought back with new techniques it had learned from previous battles. It created false memories designed to confuse the healers and launched coordinated attacks on multiple neural pathways simultaneously. But Dr. Lee and Thera had also learned from their experiences and worked together with perfect coordination. You take the left hemisphere, Thera suggested through their mental link. I will handle the emotional centers. The plague is trying to make her forget her parents' love. Working as a team, the human and Valari consciousness dove deeper into Zara's infected mind. They found the plague core wrapped around her deepest memories like a parasite feeding on everything that made her who she was, but their combined assault was too much for the ancient weapon to handle. After 6 hours of intense mental combat, the plague core shattered, and Zara's consciousness blazed with restored energy. Her eyes opened clear and bright for the first time in days, and she immediately reached for her parents, who wept with joy and relief. Meanwhile, engineer Ko Dajin and Valari technician Shan had developed a new type of neural interface that could link multiple patients to multiple healers simultaneously. Their invention meant that teams of humans and Valari could treat dozens of people at once instead of working on one patient at a time. Pilot Han Min-soo worked with recovered Valari pilots to establish supply routes across Nova Prima. The energy storms that raged through the planet's atmosphere were unlike anything he had encountered before, but the Valari pilots understood how plague energy moved through subspace and could navigate safely through the chaos. The cooperation between humans and Valari amazed the watching galactic civilizations. Zentari observers reported that the two species worked together as if they had been partners for centuries. The Ethereal Collective noted that human determination, combined with Valari intuition, created healing techniques more effective than anything their own scientists had developed. Captain Park Ji-ho established a command center in Nova Prima's capital city, where representatives from all the supporting civilizations could coordinate their efforts. The Zentari Empire provided transportation and medical supplies. The Ethereal Collective offered their advanced monitoring technology. The Kronos Federation contributed security forces to protect the medical teams, but the real work was being done by humans and Valari teams working side by side in hospitals and emergency centers across the planet. Young Kale had become a liaison between the different groups, translating not just languages but also explaining human concepts of compassion and determination to aliens who had never encountered such ideas. On the 5th day of the Nova Prima mission, Dr. Lee Soman faced her greatest challenge yet. A Zentari military commander named General Vex had been infected with a particularly aggressive strain of the plague that had evolved specifically to attack leadership neural patterns. The plague was trying to turn him into a weapon that would spread the infection to other high-ranking officials. The neural purging session for General Vex required 6 human doctors and 4 Valari healers working together in a coordinated assault on the plague's defenses. The ancient weapon had learned to anticipate their techniques and fought back with cunning and malice that seemed almost intelligent. Dr. Lee led the team into General Vex's consciousness, which appeared as a vast military complex under siege by dark energy creatures. The plague had taken the form of an invading army that was systematically destroying every memory and skill that made the general an effective leader. We need to coordinate our attack, Dr. Lee told her team through the neural link. Thera and Kale take the command center. Shan and Nira handle the defensive perimeters. The rest of us will assault the plague core directly. The battle inside General Vex's mind raged for 12 hours as the combined human Valari team fought against the plague's most sophisticated defenses. The ancient weapon used every trick it had learned, including creating false images of the healer's own worst fears and memories. At one point, Dr. Lee found herself trapped in a simulation of her own childhood, where the plague tried to convince her that she was powerless and weak, but the mental voices of her Valari partners reminded her of all the lives they had saved together and gave her strength to break free from the illusion. The plague core was finally destroyed when young Kale used his unique immunity to absorb the weapon's final desperate attack. The Valari boy risked his own consciousness to shield the human doctors from the plague's death throes, ensuring that General Vex could be saved without losing any of the healers. When General Vex opened his first words were an apology. "I was wrong about your species," he told Captain Park Ji-ho. "I thought strength came from superior technology and military power, but you have shown me that true strength comes from the willingness to sacrifice." For others, news of the successful treatment of General Vex spread across the galaxy faster than the plague itself. The Zentari Empire's most respected military leader publicly praised human courage and Valari wisdom. The story became a symbol of what could be accomplished when different species worked together instead of competing. The healing of Nova Prima took 3 weeks, but the impact was felt throughout the galactic community. For the first time in history, the major civilizations had work together under human leadership to save lives instead of pursuing their own interests. The cooperation created bonds that would change galactic politics forever. Dr. Lee Soman was promoted to Chief Medical Officer of the new galactic plague. Response Team Young Kale became the official Velari representative to the Galactic Council, the first member of his species to hold such a position. Engineer Ko Dajan and technician Shan established a joint research facility to develop new medical technologies, but perhaps the most important change was in the way different species viewed each other. The ethereal collective began sharing their knowledge more freely with younger civilizations. The Zentari Empire started questioning their policies of superiority and dominance. Even the Kronos Federation began to consider that strength might mean protecting the weak instead of abandoning them. Captain Park Jiho stood on the observation deck of the New Sol, watching Nova Prima slowly return to its normal blue and silver colors. The energy storms had cleared, and the cities were glowing with healthy light once again. But he knew that this victory was just the beginning. The plague was still spreading to other worlds, and the galaxy needed human and Velari teams to fight it. Everywhere it appeared, the mission that had started with one dying planet had become a campaign to save the entire galactic community. As he prepared to depart for the next infected system, Captain Park Jiho reflected on how much had changed since that first day when they discovered the Velari distress signals. The species everyone had written off as worthless had become the galaxy's most valuable partners, and humans had proven that sometimes the greatest technology was simply the refusal to abandon those who needed help. The galaxy was learning that true civilization was not measured by the power of weapons or the speed of ships, but by the willingness to answer when someone called for help, no matter how far away they were or how different they looked. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the Great Crystal Chamber orbiting the star Proxima Centralis. Representatives from dozens of civilizations gathered around the circular table, their faces showing confusion and concern that had not been seen for centuries. Ambassador Nexus of the Zentari Empire stood at the center, holding data tablets that contained disturbing news. Fellow council members, the silver-skinned diplomat announced the energy plague first discovered on Velara Prime has now appeared in 3 additional star systems. Our long-range sensors detect the same neural disruption patterns on colonies in the Arcturus sector, the Vega system, and the Outer Rim territories near Andromeda. Murmurs of worry rippled through the chamber. The ethereal collective representative, a being of pure crystal and light, spoke in harmonious tones. How is this possible? The plague was contained to a single dying world with primitive inhabitants. It appears we were wrong. Ambassador Nexus admitted reluctantly. The plague spreads through subspace energy fields carried by solar winds and cosmic radiation. What we thought was a local extinction event has become a galactic threat that could affect millions of lives. High Admiral Krex of the Kronos Federation slammed his armored fist on the council table. So what do you propose we do? The plague has resisted every treatment our scientists have developed. Our most advanced medical technology cannot even slow its progress. That is why we face a crisis unlike any in galactic history. Ambassador Nexus replied, for the first time a threat exists that our combined knowledge and power cannot defeat. Only one species has found a way to fight the energy plague, and they are the same primitives we dismissed as worthless. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The proud civilizations that ruled the galaxy needed help from humans, the youngest and supposedly weakest spacefaring species. Every representative struggled with the humiliation of admitting their superiority was an illusion. Meanwhile, aboard the New Sol, Captain Park Jiho studied reports from the newly infected star systems. The plague was spreading faster than anyone had predicted and growing stronger with each world it touched. Lieutenant Kim Murray worked with Velari scientists to understand how the ancient weapon was adapting to new environments. Captain, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Command Kim Murray announced. Admiral Chen wants to speak with you immediately. The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Chen sitting in her office at Earth Space Command headquarters. Her expression was serious as she delivered news that would change everything. Captain, the Galactic Council has formally requested Earth's assistance in fighting the energy plague. They are offering full membership in the galactic community and access to advanced alien technology in exchange for our Park Jiho felt surprise and suspicion in equal measure. The same civilizations that told us to abandon the Valari now want our help, he said. What changed their minds? The plague reached Nova Prima yesterday, Admiral Chun replied grimly. Nova Prima is the Zentari Empire's most important colony world with 50 million inhabitants. The plague infected their population centers within hours and their medical teams are helpless to stop it. They need human neural purging techniques or everyone on that world will die. How long do we have? Park Jiho asked. According to Zentari projections, the entire population of Nova Prima will be dead within 30 days, Admiral Chun answered. The Council is sending ships to assist you, but they are requesting that you lead the medical response personally. Captain, they have admitted that human methods are the only hope for stopping this plague on Velara Prime. The news of the spreading plague created a mixture of fear and determination among the Valari. People, they remembered what it felt like to watch their civilization slowly die while the galaxy ignored their suffering. Now other worlds faced the same nightmare, but this time someone was willing to help. Young Kale approached Captain Park Jiho as he prepared for the mission to Nova Prima. Captain, my people want to help fight the plague on other worlds. We know how it feels to be abandoned and afraid. We cannot let others suffer as we did, but you are still recovering from your own treatments. Park Jiho protested. The neural purging process was traumatic for all of you. That is exactly why we must help, Kale replied with conviction. We understand the plague better than anyone. We know how to fight it from inside a victim's consciousness. Our immunity to reinfection makes us perfect partners for your doctors. Dr. Lee Soman had been listening to the conversation and nodded in agreement. The Valari neural patterns could be incredibly valuable, she said. Their natural resistance to the plague after treatment means they can safely enter infected minds and guide our purging techniques. As preparations began for the largest medical mission in galactic history, ships from 12 different civilizations converged on the Nova Prima system. The Zentari Empire provided transportation and supplies. The Ethereal Collective offered their advanced neural monitoring equipment. Even the Kronos Federation contributed military escorts to protect the medical fleet. But at the center of this unprecedented cooperation were humans and Valari working together as equal partners. The species that everyone had written off as primitive and worthless were now leading the galaxy's most important battle. Captain Park Jiho found himself commanding a fleet with more firepower than most planetary defense forces. The journey to Nova Prima took 5 days, during which time the human Valari medical teams practiced new techniques for treating large populations. Dr. Lee Soman worked with Thera and other recovered Valari to develop group purging methods that could treat multiple patients simultaneously. Engineer Ko Dajin and Valari technician Shan collaborated on portable neural purging equipment that could be deployed quickly in emergency situations. Their joint inventions impressed even Zentari engineers who had previously considered human technology to be crude and inefficient. When the medical fleet arrived at Nova Prima, the scale of the crisis became clear. The beautiful colony world that had been home to 50 million Zentari citizens was now a planet of the dying. Energy storms raged through the atmosphere as the plague consumed the life force of entire cities. Captain, this is worse than anything we saw on Velara Prime. Lieutenant Kim Myray reported from her sensor station. The plague has evolved since we last encountered it. The neural patterns are more aggressive and more resistant to treatment. Dr. Lee Soman studied the readings with growing concern. The plague is learning from our previous treatments. She realized it is adapting to fight back against neural purging techniques. Young Kale stepped forward with determination in his purple eyes. Then we must adapt too, he said. The plague may be learning, but it still does not understand what it means to refuse surrender. That is something only living beings can do. The mission to save Nova Prima would test everything humans and Valari had learned about fighting the energy plague. It would also prove to the galaxy that true strength came not from advanced technology or ancient wisdom, but from the willingness to help others even when the cost was high. As the medical ships descended toward the dying world, Captain Park Jiho thought about how much had changed since that first day when they discovered the Valari distress signals. The species everyone had abandoned were now the galaxy's greatest hope for survival, and the humans everyone had dismissed as primitive were leading the fight to save civilizations that had once looked down on them. Galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the greatest power comes from those who refuse to give up on anyone, no matter how hopeless the situation might seem. The second neural purging session began at dawn on Velara Prime. Dr. Lee Soman connected her mind to a middle-aged Velari woman named Thera, whose condition was even worse than Kale's had been. The plague had been eating away at Thyra's consciousness for so long that her memories were starting to disappear like pages torn from a book. Engineer Ko Daejin watched the energy readings on his screens while technician Choi Yunha monitored the neural interface equipment. The delicate machinery hummed and sparked as massive amounts of mental energy flowed through the connections. Dr. Lee had been unconscious for 2 hours fighting the plague inside Thera's mind. Her vital signs are dropping again. Ko Daejin warned Captain Park Jiho we should wake her up before she goes into cardiac arrest. Not yet, Park Jiho replied, watching Dr. Lee's determined face. She said she could feel the plague weakening. Give her more time on the planet's surface. Pilot Han Minsu. Flu supply runs through dangerous energy storms that surrounded the Velari cities. The atmospheric disturbances were getting worse as more people were cured, creating electromagnetic chaos that made flying nearly impossible, but the medical teams needed fresh equipment and supplies to continue their work. Lieutenant Kim Mireille coordinated the medical camps that had been set up throughout the largest Velari city. Hundreds of sick people waited in long lines hoping for treatment. Each neural purging session took between 12 and 20 hours, and Dr. Lee could only perform one procedure per day without risking permanent brain damage. The work was exhausting and dangerous. Several human crew members had collapsed from neural feedback when they tried to help with the treatments. The ship's medical bay was filled with humans suffering from mental strain and energy depletion, but nobody complained or asked to stop the mission. Young Kale had recovered completely from his treatment and now served as a translator between the humans and other Velari. His energy levels were higher than they had ever been, and his blue skin glowed with vibrant health. He spent his days helping the medical teams and encouraging other Velari to stay hopeful. Captain Park Jiho received another transmission from the Galactic Council, but this time the tone was different. Ambassador Nexus appeared on screen looking confused and slightly worried instead of coldly dismissive. Captain, your defiance of council orders has not gone unnoticed, the Zentari representative said. However, we have been monitoring your progress with interest. How many Velari have you successfully treated? 47 people, Park Jiho answered proudly. We expect to cure 50 more by the end of this week. This is impossible, Ambassador Nexus said, shaking his silver head. Our best scientists studied the energy plague decades ago. They concluded that no cure was possible. The neural patterns required for treatment would kill any being that attempted them. Human neural patterns are apparently more resilient than yours, Park Jiho replied with a slight smile. Our people do not give up easily, even when facing impossible odds. Behind Ambassador Nexus, other alien representatives whispered among themselves. The Ethereal Collective had sent observers to study the human medical techniques. The Kronos Federation was demanding detailed reports about how primitive humans were succeeding where advanced civilizations had failed. 3 days later, disaster struck. During Thyra's treatment, Dr. Lee Soman had been connected to the Velari woman's mind for 16 hours when the plague suddenly fought back with unexpected fury. The ancient weapon seemed to learn from its previous defeat and launched a coordinated attack on both minds simultaneously. In the laboratory, Dr. Lee's body began convulsing as neural feedback overloaded her brain. Ko Daejin shouted warnings while Choi Yunha tried to stabilize the failing equipment. Thera was also in crisis, her vital signs crashing as the plague tried to kill both patient and doctor. Captain, we have to disconnect them now, Ko Daejin yelled over the sound of alarms. Wait, Park Jiho said, watching the energy readings. The plague is using more power than before. That means it's getting desperate inside the neural connection. Dr. Lee felt like she was drowning in dark energy. The plague had wrapped itself around both her consciousness and Thera's like chains of pure malice. She could feel her strength fading as the ancient weapon tried to drain both their life forces simultaneously. But then she remembered something important. The plague was designed to fight one victim at a time. It was not prepared to battle two minds working together. Dr. Lee reached out through the neural link and found Thyra's consciousness hiding behind walls of fear and despair. Help me fight, she called to the Velari woman. We can beat this thing together. Thyra had been sick for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to hope, but the human doctor's determination inspired her to try. She began pushing back against the plague, using her own knowledge of Valari neural patterns to guide Dr. Lee's attacks together. They tore apart the plague's defenses like two people pulling a rope from opposite ends. The ancient weapon had never faced coordinated resistance before, and its programming began to break down under the unexpected assault. Within an hour, the plague core shattered, completely freeing both minds from its grip. When Dr. Lee opened her eyes in the laboratory, she found Thyra sitting up and smiling. The Valari woman's blue skin glowed with health, and her purple eyes sparkled with tears of joy. She reached out and took the human doctor's hand. In a gesture of gratitude that needed no translation, working together made us both stronger, Thyra said through the universal translator. You taught me that giving up is not the only choice. News of the successful joint treatment spread quickly through the Valari population. The idea that patients could help fight their own cure gave new hope to everyone waiting for treatment. Volunteers began working with the human medical teams, sharing their knowledge of Valari biology and neural patterns. The cooperation between humans and Valari impressed even the most skeptical galactic observers. The Ethereal Collective sent a message praising the innovative treatment methods. The Zentari Empire began studying human neural resilience with new interest. Even some members of the Kronos Federation started questioning their policy of abandoning struggling civilizations. Captain Park Ji-ho stood on the bridge of the New Sol, looking down at the Valari cities below. The gray and brown colors were slowly being replaced by blues and greens as the planet healed. Construction crews made up of both humans and cured Valari worked together to rebuild damaged buildings and restore abandoned parks. We are making real progress, he told Lieutenant Kim My-rae. At this rate, we can cure the entire remaining population within 2 months, but Sir Kim My-rae said, looking at her reports. We are pushing our equipment and crew beyond safe limits. Dr. Lee has lost 15 pounds and Engineer KO is showing signs of severe mental fatigue. How long can we keep this pace? As long as it takes, Park Ji-ho answered firmly. These people waited 50 years for help. We will not let exhaustion stop us now. Every day we delay means more Valari die from the plague on the planet's surface. Young Kale worked with pilot Han Min-soo to establish supply routes between the human ship and Valari cities. The young alien had learned basic human piloting techniques and could now fly support missions during energy storms. His natural understanding of the planet's weather patterns made him an invaluable partner. The partnership between the two species was becoming stronger. Every day humans shared their technology and determination, while Valari contributed their knowledge of local conditions and neural science. What had started as a rescue mission was evolving into something deeper, a friendship between civilizations, based on mutual respect and shared goals. As the third week of treatment began, Captain Park Ji-ho received an unexpected message from deep space. Long-range sensors had detected energy signatures similar to the Valari plague in 3 nearby star systems. The ancient weapon was spreading beyond the planet where it had first been deployed. The mission to save the Valari had become something much larger, a race to stop a galactic plague before it could destroy millions of lives across multiple worlds. And the humans found themselves at the center of the galaxy's most important battle, whether they were ready or not. Dr. Lee Soman sat in her medical laboratory aboard the New Sol, studying samples of Valari blood under her microscope. The blue liquid seemed to sparkle and glow, but there was something wrong with it. The energy patterns that kept the Valari alive were breaking apart like a chain with too many missing links. She had been working for 3 days straight, trying to understand what was killing these people. The Valari called it the energy plague, but it was unlike any disease she had ever seen. It did not attack the body like normal sickness. Instead, it slowly drained away the life force that powered every cell in their bodies. Captain, this is incredible, she called to Park Ji-ho as he entered the laboratory. The plague is not natural at all. It was created as a weapon by some ancient enemy. The energy patterns show clear signs of artificial design. Someone made this thing specifically to kill the Valera. Park Ji-ho looked at the glowing samples and felt sick to his stomach. Who would create such a horrible weapon? He asked. I do not know, Dr. Lee answered, but I found something else. The plague can be stopped, but the cure is extremely dangerous. It requires someone to connect their mind directly to a Valari patient's neural system and manually fight the plague from inside their consciousness. One wrong move and both the doctor and patient could die before Park Ji-ho could respond. The ship's communication system began making urgent beeping sounds. Lieutenant Kim Mi-rae appeared on the screen looking worried. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They know we are here and they want to talk to you immediately." The main screen in the laboratory flickered to life, showing the face of Ambassador Nexus from the Zentari Empire. His skin was silver and his eyes were cold as ice. Behind him stood representatives from other powerful alien civilizations, all looking displeased. "Captain Park Ji-ho," Ambassador Nexus said in a voice like frozen metal, "you will cease your interference with the Valari situation immediately. This is a direct order from the Galactic Council." Park Ji-ho stepped forward to face the screen. "We are providing humanitarian aid to a dying civilization, Ambassador. That is not interference, that is basic decency." The Zentari ambassador made a sound like bitter laughter. "The Valari are expendable, Captain. Their technology is primitive, their resources are worthless, and their location has no strategic value. Your species shows promise in the galactic community. Do not waste that potential on creatures that were already doomed." Other voices joined in from the screen. The ethereal collective spoke through their crystal representative. "Saving the dying disrupts the natural order of cosmic evolution." The Kronos Federation military commander added, "The strong survive and the weak perish. This is the law of the universe." Park Ji-ho felt anger burning in his chest as he listened to these cold words. "Every life has value," he said firmly. "If you do not understand that, then you do not understand what it means to be truly civilized. We will not abandon these people." The transmission ended with Ambassador Nexus delivering a final warning. "You have been told, Captain. Continue this foolish mission and face the consequences." After the screen went dark, Dr. Lee So-man looked at Park Ji-ho with worried eyes. "Captain, the cure I discovered is incredibly dangerous. Even if we succeed, the other civilizations might punish us for defying their orders." Park Ji-ho thought about the elderly Valari leader Lisa and her desperate hope when she saw humans arrive. He thought about the 10,000 Valari people slowly dying while the galaxy watched and did nothing. He thought about his own daughter back on Earth and how he would want someone to help her if she was in danger. "We proceed with the mission," he said quietly. "Prepare your equipment, Doctor. We are going to save these people no matter what it costs." The news of the human defiance spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The story became the most discussed topic in the civilized galaxy. Some aliens were shocked that humans would risk everything for strangers. Others were curious to see if the primitive humans could actually succeed where advanced civilizations had failed on Valara Prime. Young Valari named Kale volunteered to be the first test subject for the dangerous cure. His energy levels had dropped so low that he could barely stand without help. His blue skin had faded to almost gray, and his purple eyes were dim with approaching death. Dr. Lee So-man prepared the neural connection equipment with help from engineer Ko Dajin and technician Choi Yun-ha. The device looked like a metal headband connected to the ship's main computer by thick cables. The neural interface would let her mind enter Kale's consciousness and fight the plague directly. "This has never been tested on humans," Captain Park Ji-ho warned as Dr. Lee prepared for the procedure. "You could die or lose your mind permanently." Dr. Lee looked at the dying young Valari and then at her. "Captain, someone has to try," she said simply. "If we do not act now, Kale will be dead in 2 days anyway. At least this way he has a chance." She placed the neural interface on her head and felt strange tingling sensations as the device connected to her brain. The laboratory around her seemed to fade away as her consciousness was pulled into the neural connection. She could feel Kale's mind like a flickering candle in a dark storm inside Kale's consciousness. The plague appeared as a writhing mass of dark energy that wrapped around every thought and memory. It was trying to consume everything that made him who he was. Dr. Lee could feel the ancient malice built into the weapon by whoever created it long ago. The plague sensed her presence and turned its attention toward her like a hungry predator. She felt burning pain as it tried to drain her energy too, but she fought back with everything she had, drawing on human stubbornness and determination. She began pulling the dark tendrils away from Kale's memories. One by one, hours passed in the real world while Dr. Lee battled the plague inside Kale's mind. Her body in the laboratory began shaking and her vital signs became dangerous. Engineer Ko Daejin monitored her condition while technician Choi Yunha kept the neural interface equipment running despite energy fluctuations that threatened to destroy. The delicate systems captain, her heart rate is becoming critical. Ko Daejin warned we should disconnect her before no doctor. Lee whispered through gritted teeth without opening her eyes. I can feel it weakening. The plague was not designed to fight. Someone with human determination, it expects victims to give up and die quietly, but humans do not give up inside. The neural connection, she grabbed the core of the plague with her consciousness and began tearing it apart. The ancient weapon fought back with waves of despair and hopelessness, trying to make her believe the mission was impossible. But Dr. Lee thought about all the Villari people counting on her and refused to let go. Finally, after 88 hours of continuous battle, the plague core shattered like broken glass. Kale's consciousness suddenly blazed with healthy energy as his natural life force was freed from the weapon's grip. Dr. Lee felt herself being pulled back to her own body as the neural connection ended in the laboratory. Kale opened his eyes for the first time in months without pain. His blue skin glowed with vibrant health and his purple eyes sparkled with life. He sat up slowly, looking around in amazement before focusing on the exhausted human doctor who had saved him. You fought for me, he said with wonder in his voice. When my own galaxy gave up on me, you risked your life to save mine, Doctor. Lee smiled weakly as her crew helped her sit up. The first cure was successful, but thousands more Villari needed the same treatment. It would take everything. The human crew had to save them all, but they had proven it was possible. News of the successful cure spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The other civilizations watched in amazement and confusion as humans began the impossible task of saving an entire dying species, one person at a time.